Annie Lay, a 24-year-old from San Jose, California, grew up in a large family. Described by those who knew her as conscientious, polite, and friendly to everyone she met, Annie possessed tenacity and a great sense of humor. From a young age, she was recognized as an exceptional student. Graduating as the valedictorian of her high school class, Annie was voted by her classmates as the most likely to become the next Einstein. She earned $160,000 in scholarships and completed her undergraduate degree in cell development biology from the University of Rochester. She met Jonathan Wodowski there, and the young couple quickly became inseparable. Annie referred to Jonathan as her best friend, and before long he proposed. The wedding was set for September 13, 2009, and preparations began earnestly. After years of intense work, Annie was accepted into Yale University, a prestigious Ivy League school where she aimed to earn her doctorate in pharmacology. She was actively involved on campus, participating in various extracurricular activities and writing an article about campus safety for Yale Medical School's B magazine. At the time, Jonathan was at Columbia University, working on his doctorate, making their reunion for the wedding even more special. On September 7, 2009, Annie, in her final year at Yale and just 5 days away from her wedding, was busy and stressed. She called her friend Jennifer for encouragement, expressing normal pre-wedding worries, but Jennifer reassured her that she and Jonathan were making the right decision. Grateful for the support, Annie carried on with her day. On September 8, 2009, Annie still had work to do on campus before heading to Long Island. She left her apartment and took the Yale Transit to her office on campus, then walked to her lab at 10 Amistad Street, room G13, where she conducted most of her research. As the day drew to a close, her roommates grew concerned when she did not return home and was unreachable. At 9 p.m., they called the New Haven Police Department to report her missing. Annie's friend Jennifer noted that Annie was always cautious, never walking alone at night, and ensuring she had a safe way home if working late. The fact that no one had heard from her was alarming. Police discovered Annie's wallet, keys, purse, and phone neatly arranged in her office at Yale University's 10 Amistad Street lab building. Her belongings indicated she intended to return soon, as none of her credit or debit cards had been used, and her phone showed no activity. Her Yale ID card, used to access the labs, was the only item missing. CCTV footage confirmed Annie entered 10 Amistad Street around 10 a.m., carrying an indistinguishable item, presumably for her research. The footage showed nothing unusual, and she did not appear to be in distress. However, the basement level where her lab was located had only one camera, which did not capture her passing through. At 12:50 p.m., a fire alarm sounded and everyone evacuated the building. A lab technician named Ray, who maintained room G13, told authorities he had seen Annie in the lab and thought she left just before the fire alarm. Despite extensive searches of the building, including every hallway, room, cupboard, and bin, there was no sign of her. Yale offered $10,000 reward for information on Annie's whereabouts, and her fiancé and family joined the search. Annie's disappearance quickly became major news, with reporters swarming the campus and over 100 law enforcement officers involved. Authorities were unsure if it was an abduction or something more sinister, but some speculated Annie had cold feet about the wedding and ran away. Her friends and family refuted this, noting Annie's excitement and meticulous planning for the wedding. A second search of the building was conducted. The investigators uncovered a drop of blood on a shelf in room G13 and beads from Annie's necklace in a back storage room, G22. On September 12th, a more thorough search using luminol revealed more blood in G22 and a foul smell near the locker rooms and toilets. Cadaver dogs were brought in, and the building was declared a crime scene. Yale, one of New Haven's oldest institutions, faced unwelcome publicity with Annie's disappearance. University officials urged the community not to speak to reporters.
But the mysterious and troubling disappearance of doctoral student Annie Lee, with intensive media coverage of the investigation, is most unwelcome publicity. In a series of emails, university officials urged the Yale community not to speak to reporters who can be very aggressive in situations like this, where there are more questions than answers. Many at Yale followed the directive. This group, for example, declined this reporter's questions.
It's not a matter for the news.
No.
Despite finding bloody clothing in the ceiling of the building, which was not Annie's, and searching a Hartford waste facility for clues, authorities made no progress. On September 13, 2009, at 5 p.m., Annie's decomposing body was found stuffed upside down inside a wall behind a metal utility panel near the lockers and room G22. Instead of walking down the aisle and celebrating the happiest day of her life, they found her locked away and dead. She had died from traumatic asphyxiation by neck compression with a broken jaw and collarbone. Evidence of a sexual assault was also found. Near her body were her key card and a blue surgical glove matching one found under a ceiling tile. DNA samples were taken and sent to the combined DNA index system. A vigil was held for Annie on campus, and grief counselors and a 24-hour helpline were made available. The police believed it was an inside job, with Officer Joe Avery stating that the access codes and IDs required to navigate the campus suggested it was not a random act. Students were fearful, traveling in groups and turning down shifts at work. Despite speculation, DNA testing led to a match with convicted felon Kieran Robinson, who had been dead for years, having helped with construction on the building. With no other matches, the search continued. Detectives reviewed 700 hours of video and interviewed over 150 people. Using keycard data, they identified 2 others who swiped into room G13 that day, a third-party contractor who was quickly ruled out, and 24-year-old lab technician Raymond Clark, who had seen Annie leaving the building. His claim put him under scrutiny, as cameras confirmed she did not leave. Known for being controlling and sometimes unpleasant, Ray complained Annie about dirty mice cages, though Yale had no disciplinary records against him. Ray entered and exited G13 and G22 rooms 55 times that day, confirmed by his key card and cameras. He was seen leaving during the fire alarm and returning at 1:10 p.m. in different scrubs. He clocked off at 3:45 p.m. and was seen outside looking distressed. Police noticed scratches and bruises on Ray, which he attributed to a cat. A polygraph test showed signs of deception, but it was inadmissible, and he was released after providing a DNA sample.
Before the sun came up this morning, unmarked cars had surrounded this Motel 8 in Cromwell, Connecticut. FBI agents, local police, all gathered here, waiting for word from New Haven's police chief. They knew the arrest warrant was coming for 24-year-old Raymond Clark III. The lab technician who worked in the same building where Yale grad student Annie Lay did her research. He was inside a motel room here with his father. Authorities got the green light shortly after 8 this morning. Immediately, barricades went up on the highway in front of the motel, and a team of FBI agents raced up the back stairs, straight to room 214. There they found Raymond Clark in a white shirt, tan pants, and soon he was wearing handcuffs. Hidden behind tinted windows, he was brought into the New Haven Police Department.
Hey, big man. Enjoy jail.
A few minutes ago, Raymond J. Clark III, 24 years of age, of Middleton, Connecticut, was arrested at a motel in Cromwell, Connecticut.
On September 14, New Haven police arrested Raymond Clark at a Super 8 motel in Cromwell, Connecticut, after an arrest warrant was issued. He was brought to the New Haven Police Department and later arraigned in court for Annie's murder. Authorities had been closely monitoring Ray since his key card had been used in the same room as Annie on the day she was last seen. DNA tests confirmed Ray as Annie's killer, with DNA from the bloody sock and lab coat matching both Ray and Annie. A green pen found under Annie's body contained both her DNA and Ray's DNA. This, along with key card data and camera footage, solidified the case against Ray. Investigators believe Annie was killed just before the fire alarm went off. Ray quickly changed out of his bloodied scrubs, left Annie in the lab, and exited during the alarm. He then hurried back in, moved her body through room G22, and hid her behind the panel. Investigators stated they had more than enough physical evidence to convict Clark, even without establishing a motive. They noted that only the suspect truly knows the motive, and it might not be revealed until the trial, if ever. Today's New York Post reported that Annie Lay's body was so mangled with broken bones that it wasn't recognizable. They also suggested Raymond Clark might have accidentally triggered the fire alarm with his or Annie's security swipe card. The only potential clue to a motive was an email Annie sent out on the day she was killed, informing everyone in the building about her upcoming wedding and honeymoon. Ray had opened this email. He was also engaged and about to get married. Police speculated that Ray might have had a secret obsession with Annie, and reading about her imminent wedding could have triggered a fit of jealousy and rage. Raymond Clark was held on a $3 million bond and expected to plead not guilty. Despite initially pleading not guilty, Ray later pled guilty to murder in exchange for a 44-year sentence and was also found guilty of attempted sexual assault. Annie's funeral was broadcast live with emotional speeches from her family. Annie, on the verge of completing her doctorate and marrying her best friend, had a bright future tragically cut short. Her friend Natalie remembered her as a wonderful person, leaving a lasting impact on those who knew her.